All right, some breaking news coming in. In major relief for the government, the Supreme Court has refused to act against tainted ministers. In a landmark decision, the apex court made it clear that choosing ministers for his cabinet is the Prime Minister's prerogative and it will not encroach upon this right. The court, however, observed that it hopes that any Prime Minister will not include tainted or charge-sheeted ministers. Manish Tiwari, Congress leader, joining me over the telephone line right now. Thanks so much, Manish Tiwari, for speaking to Headlines today. Your first reaction on this Supreme Court ruling that has come in this morning?
Well, the Supreme Court has obviously upheld the obvious, which is the doctrine of separation of powers, which is intrinsic to the Constitution, that the executive, the legislature and the judiciary operate in separate domains. But the Supreme Court has also underlined and underscored a very important obiter dicta that it hopes and wishes that the Prime Minister would not include any tainted minister in his Council of Ministers. So therefore, now it is for the Prime Minister of India to really tell the people, does he agree with the observation of the Supreme Court or not? And if he does agree with the observation of the Supreme Court, would he try and find out that are there any charge-sheeted people in his cabinet? And if at all there are any charge-sheeted or tainted people in his cabinet, would he then take the next step and drop them? So therefore, I think the Supreme Court has put the ball in the court of the Prime Minister. It has reminded the Prime Minister of his responsibility, and the Prime Minister must articulate a response on the obiter dicta of the Supreme Court, whether he agrees or disagrees with the observation of the court.
Right. But with this also, the Supreme Court has again given the Prime Minister full authority to choose whomsoever he deems fit for the post in his cabinet. Now, how do you think this is going to augur for the future in the days to come?
Well, that's precisely what I'm saying, that you have to read the judgment and the advice concurrently. I have not perused the entire judgment. I'm only reacting on the basis of the 4 lines which were told to me by your guest coordinator. But as it was explained to me that the Supreme Court has said that it is the prerogative of the Prime Minister, however, they caveated it with an obiter. So therefore, it becomes incumbent upon the Prime Minister now to stand up and tell the country, does he agree with this observation of the Supreme Court or he disagrees? And if he agrees, then would he try and find out if there are any tainted ministers in his government, take action against them? And if he disagrees with the observation of the Supreme Court, then would he articulate the reasons for doing so?
All right, Manish Tiwari, they're reacting to the Supreme Court's observation, the ruling that has come in saying it is the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister's prerogative to choose ministers in his cabinet. Brijesh Pandey, my colleague, joining us live from New Delhi for more on this. Brijesh, what reactions are we getting on this?
Well, the Supreme Court observation has made one thing very clear, that the domain, they have kind of respected Constitution, which gives the Prime Minister the discretion of selecting his own cabinet. But apart from that, it has also in a very subtle but solid way put the ball in the court of the Prime Minister, saying that the moral authority of whether a tainted minister or a charge-sheeted minister should be part of his cabinet now lies with the Prime Minister. Now the Prime Minister cannot shirk away from the responsibility in saying that, you know, we have X or Y or Z reasons for having this gentleman, a charge-sheeted person as a minister in his cabinet. But the Supreme Court has clearly made the demarcation as to wherein exactly the authority of the executive lies, and they are saying that as per the Constitution, as per the mandate of the Constitution, that the cabinet formation and who the Prime Minister selects is a discretion of the Prime Minister. It lies with the Prime Minister of this country. But the fact of the matter is that if the Prime Minister is having a person who's charge-sheeted and who's tainted and wanted in any particular case, and if he's taking them, it is for the Prime Minister to explain why that gentleman is part, or why that person is part of his or her cabinet. Sana?
But for now, Brijesh, this also means that more power to the Prime Minister really to choose whosoever he wishes, be tainted or not. The matter of whether the minister is tainted or not comes later on. But for now, it means that full authority to the Prime Minister.
This was the mandate of the Constitution, and this PIL which wanted to take action against 13 charge-sheeted minister, the Supreme Court, by striking down the PIL, has made it very clear that they are not going to diverge from the stated mandate of the Constitution, which makes it very clear that the discretion of selection of cabinet or whosoever is going to be part of the cabinet lies with the Prime Minister. And if there had been any tinkering with that particular disposition, then it would have been a major change of the change in the sense of interpretation of the Constitution. So basically, the Supreme Court has kind of upheld the mandate which was there in the Constitution, and apart from that, they have just said that the morality or the explanation of why this particular charge sheet minister is part of the Prime Minister's cabinet now kind of lies with the Prime Minister, and the explanation which he has to give is to be given by the Prime Minister and not by the Supreme Court. Sana?
Right. Rajesh, also take us through what exactly the Supreme Court said when it ruled on this particular matter. We understand this comes as a big relief to the government. We are trying to get in more reactions on this story as well.
Challenging the induction of 13 cabinet minister, saying that these are the charge-sheeted and tainted ministers and they shouldn't be part of the cabinet. And the Supreme Court today, a 5-judge constitution bench today, made a historic verdict by saying that the formation of cabinet is a discretion of the Prime Minister of this country, and there is no way the court can give a ruling on that and who should be part of the Prime Minister's cabinet or not. But it also said that it is for the moral authority of the Prime Minister as to he is the person best responsible for explanation of who forms part of the cabinet of his. And they're saying that the ball is clearly on the Prime Minister's court, so as to he is the person who will explain why an X, Y or Z person who's charge-sheeted or tainted is part of his cabinet. But the court has steered clear of the domain which lied exclusively with the executive of this country as per the mandate of the Constitution, and they have made it crystal clear that there won't be no interference whatsoever from the side of the Supreme Court. But it has also laid the moral authority, and the ball is now on the Prime Minister's court to explain why, if any tainted minister is part of his cabinet. Sana?
Right. Rajesh, we're given to understand that at this point, 30% of the ministers in Narendra Modi government, they have already declared criminal cases against themselves, 18% of them having declared serious criminal cases against them. Now, at the earlier on, Prime Minister had said that all cases will be looked into and fast-tracked as well. So what kind of impact are we likely to see on these ministers?
Well, there's going to be no likelihood or though immediate impact on the fate of these ministers, because one thing is clear, that the Supreme Court has not passed any verdict against this, and the domain, as I've been saying, lies now exclusively with the Prime Minister. But yes, in the same hand, it also increases the moral responsibility of the Prime Minister of this country as to what exactly...
Right. Rajesh, hang on. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Shaina NC of the BJP joining us over the phone line. Shaina, your first reaction. Of course, this ruling coming in as a relief of sorts for the government for the moment.
I think we welcome it. It is something that the whole country has been anticipating and waiting. And when we talk about, a certain kind of probity in public life and people living up to the expectations of the electorate, it all starts by disqualifying ministers who have any kind of a criminal case pending, or for that matter, there has been a lot of speculation in the past as well as to why governments all across the board have supported, leaders with the track record which is questionable. So we welcome it completely. And I think the good point is that the judge said that no disqualification can be prescribed. It's expected for the Prime Minister not to appoint persons against whom charges are framed and is facing a trial. And the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers should decide and act accordingly. So we welcome it completely.
Right. Shaina, this also means that the Prime Minister, there's a huge onus on the Prime Minister to act as per the Constitution. A lot of trust being imposed on him by the Apex Court here.
Yes, but I think that the Prime Minister leads by example himself. And if one looks at his track record and his impeccable career as Chief Minister of Gujarat, moving on to becoming the Prime Minister of this country, these are values that he subscribes to. And once a person is an MP, he is entitled to be in the Council of Ministers if the Prime Minister so decides. But it is the prerogative of the Prime Minister concerned, but the constitutional prerogative of Parliament, I think, is also very important.
Right. Shaina, what would you say to the ministers like Uma Bharti, who have declared a case related to attempt to murder, Upendra Kushwaha, Ramvilas Paswan, Gopinath Munde, all having cases against them, but declaring as well any action that we can expect from the Prime Minister regarding some of the ministers in his cabinet?
See, some of them have been wrongly found and charged. Take the example of Nihal Chand Megwal. One knows the kind of agenda behind this particular case, where suddenly somebody wakes up and includes his name in a charge sheet which has been filed for the third time. So I think we need to realize that in public life, if there is an allegation, there's bound to be a counter-allegation. The Election Commission has repeatedly said that candidates with a criminal past should be barred from contesting elections, and that is something that we subscribe to, but I think today's judgment is welcome for clean-up in our political system. However, personal vendetta should not be used as a benchmark.
All right. Shaina NC, thanks so much for speaking to Headlines today. Meanwhile, let's also quickly go and listen into what the lawyer, the petitioner, said after the Apex Court gave its ruling.
कोर्ट ने मेरा ये पिटीशन था कि क्या ऐसे आदमी जिनके अगेंस्ट में गंभीर आपराधिक मामले चल रहे हैं, चार्जशीट सबमिट हो चुके हैं, कॉन्वियंस ले दिए, ऐसे आदमी क्या मिनिस्टर, प्राइम मिनिस्टर, चीफ मिनिस्टर बहाल हो सकते हैं? कोर्ट में 3 जजमेंट आए हैं। जो मेजॉरिटी जजमेंट है उन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, संविधान का जो ऐसे कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शंस नहीं है प्राइम मिनिस्टर पर एक्सप्लिसिटली, लेकिन प्राइम मिनिस्टर को और चीफ मिनिस्टर को चाहिए कि ऐसे किसी आदमी को जिनके अगेंस्ट में चार्जशीट सबमिट हो गया हो, गंभीर मामले में है, या कॉन्वियंस ले लिया जा चुका हो या चार्ज फ्रेम हो चुका हो, उन्हें मिनिस्टर नहीं अपॉइंट करें। ये उनका ये वैसे एडवाइजरी देखने में लगता है, लेकिन ये मैंडेटरी हुआ। प्राइम मिनिस्टर और चीफ मिनिस्टर को इस बात को माननी पड़ेगी। जस्टिस कोरियन जोफेट ने तो स्पष्ट शब्दों में कहा है कि नहीं, ये मैंडेटरी है कि ऐसे लोगों को मिनिस्टर नहीं बनाया जाए। ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की जो स्पिरिट है उसके खिलाफ है। हालांकि एक एस्पेक्ट में कोर्ट ने कुछ नहीं कहा है। मेरा ये कहना था कि क्या ऐसे आदमी जिनके अगेंस्ट में इस तरह के क्रिमिनल केसेज हैं, वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर और चीफ मिनिस्टर बनाए जा सकते हैं? एक तो हुआ कि मिनिस्टर बनाए जा सकते हैं कि नहीं, और प्राइम मिनिस्टर द्वारा और चीफ मिनिस्टर द्वारा। दूसरी बात है कि क्या ऐसे आदमी जिनके अगेंस्ट में कोई गंभीर आपराधिक मामले का आरोप है, उसमें चार्जशीट सबमिट हो गया है,
आपके मुताबिक ये आदेश जो है ये कितना बाध्यकारी होगा?
पहले मुझे ये तो कंप्लीट करनी है।
शॉर्ट में रखिए।
ऐसे आदमी को क्या प्राइम मिनिस्टर और चीफ मिनिस्टर बनाया जा सकता है? इसके बारे में कोर्ट ने कुछ नहीं कहा है, और मैं इसके लिए एक क्लैरिफिकेशन पिटीशन फाइल करूंगा कि क्या ऐसे आदमी के बारे में जो जिनके अगेंस्ट में गंभीर आपराधिक मामले हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर और चीफ मिनिस्टर बनाए जा सकते हैं?
All right, now this significant ruling coming in with the Supreme Court rejecting a petition calling for removal of tainted cabinet ministers, saying that the Prime Minister should take a call on this. We'll be tracking all developments in this case very closely over the next few minutes.